Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be building a small house that is inside of a greenhouse, and this is actually going to be a limited pack build. It is only using the base game and the Blooming Rooms kit, which is actually free right now, so if you haven't grabbed it, make sure you do before the month ends, which is when I believe it won't be free anymore. So if you're watching this in May of 2024, make sure you have grabbed it. And this is one of the kits that I use the most. It has some amazing plants and some interesting pieces that I made sure to use in this build. I really wanted to use every single item from this kit, and it resulted in a very interesting build, I think, because I was going for this very modern structure, and some of those plants are more modern, but at the same time the base game isn't so modern anymore in some of the items or the furniture, so it was a bit of a challenge in that sense, but I really loved how it came out. I really wanted to have this like big glass roof and a bunch of windows, and at first I was thinking that it was going to be only one story because I really wanted to build inside of the roof, and in the end I did do that, but only for the bathroom because it turned out not to be very spacious. But it does function. I did playtest this, and I did end up having to change some things about the way that I had laid things out, and I don't actually show it because it was a process that took some time, but this fully functions. It's a house big enough for 2 Sims to live in, and you should be able to take care of all of your needs in here. There isn't a computer, but you can always have one on the dining room table, since that is, interestingly, one of the most spacious places of the house. The bedroom isn't very big, but it has everything. I did have to use one of the smaller dressers instead of a closet, which is my preference, but since this was The Sims and this is meant to be a small space, I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. And I was thinking that these Sims are a lot more interesting in their garden than they are in their furniture, so I thought that made sense. And right now you can see that I have these stairs behind the kitchen, and then you're going to be able to access this lofted bedroom, and from there I decided to have a ladder into the bathroom. I actually added some stairs that you're going to be seeing in this video, but it turns out that because of the height of the roof, the Sims weren't able to actually climb those stairs, so I ended up having to add a ladder, which didn't look as cool as the stairs. I really liked how the stairs made these interesting diagonals that you could see from outside, and this really is like living in a fishbowl. So I was thinking that there's probably some treatment to the glass, or maybe there's automated blinds or something, mechanic blinds I suppose, so that you could make sure that nobody was watching you sleep or watching you in the bathroom. But since it's The Sims, there isn't really any problem with privacy issues like that. And you can see that the bathroom is this lofted area here. It isn't big by any means. I ended up having to scoot over the shower closer to the center of the roof because it wasn't accessible because of that same roof. I could probably have made the roof taller, and then Sims would have had no problem with it, I suppose, but I didn't think of it, and I liked the way that it was shaped, so I didn't do that. And you can see that on the other side of this roof I only decided to have some plants and to use a half wall so that they looked more built in, and I really enjoyed that. And I also really liked how this bed has a bunch of leaves, and how I was able to use those strange side tables from the kit, and also this shelf. I think many people don't like this shelf. I really do like it. It is just very hard to find a way to use it in spaces. It has a very interesting shape. It's quite asymmetrical, and it is kind of big at the same time. It's just a hard item to use, but I was really happy with how it looked above the bed. And actually that's, I think, the only place where I would have been able to include it in this build. And for example, you can see that here in the kitchen I am using these smaller shelves, and I try to add a bunch of plants to them. I was thinking that I was just going to have these shelves in here and that would be everything for this section of the kitchen in terms of plants, but then I discovered that there were a few of the wall hanging plants in this kit that I thought would make the most sense in the kitchen. There's a few plants in like tea canisters, and there's another one that is like glass sinks with plants. You will see that when I actually remember about it. I actually had already bought this pack, so it wasn't free for me, but I am very happy that it is free for other people. I really don't mind since I bought it, I think, last year, so yeah, if I had bought it like very recently it would feel weird, but I'm glad that I have since gotten a lot of use out of it. And also, since it's a kit, it wasn't as expensive as other packs that they have given out before. But yeah, this is one that I have used a lot and that I am very happy to have ever since I got it, because I do think that I use it in every build. Even sometimes when I think I didn't use it, it turns out that I did. Like for example, when I was building these fallout walls, I was pretty sure that I wasn't using it because I used almost no plants at all, but it turned out that I did use it's like a shelf for greenhouses and gardening, and I do have it here in this build as well. It's going to be outside. It's just a kit that I am always using even when I don't notice. But anyway, you can see that this kitchen area is more industrial, but I still wanted this to be pretty warm and to feel pretty alive, I suppose, with all of these plants. And there's a lot of greenery, and also I really love this flooring. This is a tile that we normally had in like grays and browns, and now we have a bunch of other swatches and they are all very cool. So I was very happy to be able to use this one. I did try the gray one because I really like the different colors that it has. These ones are a lot more monochromatic, but it's a pretty nice style to have in several other swatches. And anyway, this is going to be the living area, and I really wanted to have a TV in this house, so I am putting it on top of that small table from the Blooming Rooms kit. That's another item that I almost never use. And I also wanted to use this kind of plant cage somewhere, and I had no idea where to use it, so I ended up sizing it down twice and having it beneath these stairs. I was thinking that I wanted to use this area as a storage space, and I thought that this was what worked best. I also added some leaning paintings on top of it, and I suppose I should have added some shelving so that it looks like they are actually leaning against something, because they seem to, the way that I have them, it looks like they could just slip through the openings in this cage. But anyway, I just added a bookshelf and some more plants next to it, because this whole space has plants. I think I might have overdone it, but in the end everything that I wanted to fit in I was able to fit, so I don't think that's really a problem. And I think that this couch that I'm using here is my favorite couch in the base game. I really struggle when I am picking things like beds, couches, and rocks with base game only, so I might have overused a few items. For example, that lamp that is like the industrial lamp that I have next to the bed, I also have it in the living space, so I was thinking that probably the Sims that live here would have gone to the store and gotten two lamps, or maybe they came together, so I don't think that's unrealistic. But I do think that in The Sims, realism is relative. Sometimes having two items that are the same, maybe because it's the same 3D model, they look a bit weird and it seems like a bit artificial, even if it wouldn't be strange to go to someone's house and see that they have two of the same object. For example, also this rug I used twice. But it's just hard to really go for different styles when you have the base game, because you have like a very defined few sets of furniture. So sometimes that gets a bit repetitive unless you are like really trying. And but yeah, then I decided that the gray siding and everything outside, the windows and the doors, were a bit weird, and they weren't really good for this look that I was going for, so I decided to have them all be brown. And then I decided to fence in this area. I really wanted to make sure that this sim would have a garden where they could actually plant stuff and take care of them, since I was thinking that their main interest in life is plants. That really seems to be the main hobby that they have, because indoors they can't do many things other than watching television and reading the few books that they have. So I was thinking that they are pretty interested in plants. Maybe they only have books that are related to plants, or that kind of thing. And I really wanted to have this sort of storage area here in the back, because that's the only way that I could think of using this shelf, and I did want to use every single one of these items. So this is one that I almost never use. I have only used it, I think, here on that fold-out bowl that I had mentioned, and on an apartment for a servo. So the servo had like a bunch of little robots on top of this thing, so it was like a more industrial and like laboratory kind of environment. So I was happy that I was using this for its intended purpose. And I actually got this, I forget what it's called, but when your Sims are good enough at gardening, they can just remove weeds with this machine instead of having to do it by hand. So I was pretty happy that I was able to find that in debug and that it wanted to slot to this thing. So I thought that was a very cool thing to add, and I also added some more of the gardening clutter that we have in the base game. A lot of it is also a repeat, that because I had used some of these items in the kitchen, but I also added these bags of fertilizer that are also from debug, and I really like how they stack and that they look a bit more normal, and not the clipping isn't as obvious as it is with some of the other objects. But since I was looking through debug already, I wanted to have these like garden stones and to have like these pathways that would lead up to the door and then to the garden. And here I was having like some issues because the terrain looks flat, but it isn't actually flat, so I had to flatten it, and then the stones were showing up as normal. And then I just got some more plants and some more landscaping. I really need to spend more time looking through the debug landscaping, because there's some really, really nice plants in there, and also these stepping stones are super cool and they size up pretty well. So even though I had tried to use some of the normal like floorings in the game, I wasn't as happy with them as I was with this stone. So yeah, debug is like really useful, especially if you're trying to do things like starter homes or limited pack builds. It just really makes it a lot more interesting. But I do get lost in it, so when I don't really feel like I have the time and energy to look through it, I just don't. But I really should do that more, since even in just the base game we have a bunch of really cool plants and items. Also, that little like stool is from there as well. It's the one that children use when they are like using the telescope or things that require them to have a bit more height. And I was thinking that it was probably a good idea to have a stool when you are going to be removing weeds and taking care of gardens, so I wanted to have that in there. And I also had some crates next to it, because I don't know, maybe they also have some other supplies. And I also really wanted to have this terrain paint that looks like little pebbles. I think that it makes things look a bit more realistic, because the normal grass is so flat, and it looks even flatter when you add other like plants that give it a bit more texture. And I also really wanted to have like small sitting areas so that it looks like there's more to do outside than just gardening. So it looks also like a relaxing space, and like you could maybe grill some food and have some people over. Even though the dining has a decently sized table, you could have a lot of people in here if you wanted to have a party. So maybe some of them could be outside and some of them could be inside. But yeah, that was what I was thinking as I was building this. But that's going to be pretty much it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. This is going to be up in the gallery under my ID, which is brand new. Make sure you have claimed your free kit if you are still in time to do so. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you left a like and also if you subscribe to my channel. Thank you again so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.